I mean, I think we all know there's gotta be some level, but like what you guys are dealing with. We should not be so restricted on our signs. It's ridiculous. Most of them are on Highway 10. You've got to have a sign process.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and call this November 18th meeting of the Sherburne County EDA to order. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. We do have a couple changes, right, Dan? Our
Speaker had to cancel, another priority came up and they had to switch it, so they're gonna come in January.
Okay, so item 5, they won't be attending, and in its stead, I'd like to have a short conversation about potentially putting together a working group to look at our tax abatement policy, to push that discussion up to the county board. The county board made that request in the workshop Tuesday for us to take a look at that. So we'll add that. Any other changes to the agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Mr. Giroux. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Second from Mr. Poole. Any other conversation? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we'll go on to approval of the October 21st EDA meeting minutes that were in your packet. Unless there's any changes, I'd entertain a motion there.
I'll make that motion.
Motion from Mr. Giroux. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ann. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, item number 4, revolving loan fund application for Sunken Ship Brewing. Dan, you gonna kick us off?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a brief overview of the project. Good timing. We have received a revolving loan application from Sunken Ship Brewery, and I'm just gonna give a real quick overview of the project before I turn it over to Kevin and the applicants to tell us a little bit more about the project. There we go. All right, so this is the building in Princeton. It actually looks a little bit different now. I was just out there on Monday. You got a lot of machines out there, right? A lot of equipment right out there. There's a parking lot, but that's what it looked like before they purchased it. It's right on Baldwin Township, but it's in the process of being annexed into the city of Princeton. And it's right next to Coburn's and the Dairy Queen, if you know the area. All right, Chrissy, I lost my... There you go. So it's about a 4,300 square foot building. They already purchased it for $200,000. The total project costs are about $1.2 million. They're going to be adding a patio. About 14 employees, of which 3 are full-time. And as I said, they're annexing into the city of Princeton. Once all the remodeling's done, it'll increase the taxable value by about $200,000. And you can see the increase in property taxes. And part of that is because it's annexing into the city. Obviously, city taxes are a little higher than the township taxes. As you recall from our last meeting, the economic impact of a brewery is very substantial. For every 100 jobs, it has a ripple effect to create another 100 jobs. So when you look at these 14 jobs they're creating, it's actually creating about 30 jobs when you look at past history. So the actual request is a $100,000 loan for 25 years. You can see how the loan is broken up. It'll be financed by Pioneer Bank, about 16% in equity, and then we'll be funding about 18.5% if approved. And Kevin, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the strengths of the loan and the risks as well.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Weber, Mr. Chair, committee members, good morning. Again, my name is Kevin Weirs, and I'm Vice President of Central Minnesota Development Company. And we partner with the county in underwriting these RLF loan requests. So we had an opportunity to look at this and do some analysis regarding the request. So our role in this process, again, as a credit and financial underwriter, is to look at the probability of either a loan default or a loan loss. And so that's our primary objective and goal in this process. And as underwriters, we typically focus on the 5 C's of credit that you'll often hear either underwriters or lenders talk about. So what I want to do is just maybe on a high level talk about what we looked at and some of those findings. So the first, again, Dan has got in his outline and presentation here talked about the project. It is to purchase, well, they've already purchased, but primarily to assist with that purchase and renovations of the real estate that's located in Princeton there. But in addition to that, and outside of this project that we're looking at, but it's certainly imperative and critical to this project, is to include some financing of furniture, fixture, and equipment to house the brewery that they're doing there. So what we're focused on was primarily the renovations in the real estate, but an important component of this also includes that FF&E that we referred to. That part of it is being financed strictly by the bank, Pioneer Bank. So they're utilizing the bank. So the bank is financing the real estate piece of it, which we're partnering with them. But in addition to that, with equity provided by the Smiths, are going to be providing an SBA 7A loan to finance the FF&E that's critical for the operations of that business, okay? So what we've got here is, again, the structure on the real estate side of it is slightly under $1.2 million. And that includes the purchase of the real estate that took place back in early March, and then these significant renovations that are taking place of that. So that's what we're looking at, or what we looked at as a project there. And of course, then the county's piece of this, in addition to the equity that the Smiths already put into this, is going to be for $100,000 is what the request is for there. So that's number one, is kind of the conditions as we look at the 5 C's. That's one of the C's is the conditions, and what do we got as a project? Okay, so that's what we've got as a C. Number 2 is we look at character, and so what we have is in this particular project, and it's very common, is that the real estate will often be held by what we refer to as a passive real estate company. And then really the operating company, which in this particular case is Sunken Ship Brewing Company, is the operating company. For all intents and purposes, that's what's really generating the business to pay the loan back, okay? But business owners will often form a passive real estate company to own that, and that's what's happened here. So the real estate itself and the borrowing entity is going to be Stout Storage LLC. So that's going to be the owner of the real estate, and that's who is going to be the loan borrower will be here. But, and again, and in addition to that, because none of that, really Stout is irrelevant to the point that it just owns the real estate, everything is based off Sunken Ship. Okay, so that company, the operating company, will be a corporate guarantor in this situation, as well as then the Smiths will be personal guarantees in the deal. So from a personal standpoint, the Smiths, is, I think you probably saw, are lifelong residents of Sherburne County. Have worked here, grew up in this entire area, are well known in this area. So we have really outstanding and long-term residents of Sherburne County. And from a credit and collateral and capacity standpoint, all of them are employed. Teresa's going to, I think, handle the day-to-day operations of the business, but with her and her siblings, John and Jeff, both of them, or all 3 of them, will have a role in managing the business. They did hire a head brewer, which of course is a critical component of breweries. They already have him on staff, I believe, or committed to work with them. And so they've got kind of a management team already in place and ready to go as soon as they open up here. So again, from a personal standpoint, there's no character, credit standpoints, histories of concern. So we had a strong owners and guarantors in this project. So that's number 2. Number 3 and 4 is capacity and capital. And so this is the capacity focuses on the ability to repay debt back. And particularly in this particular case where we have a project that's new, it's a new business, we focus and are provided with projections, okay? Normally if you have an expansion project, you got historical performance to kind of base that and make some judgment and comparisons to it, but in this particular case we don't. So it's all projection based, and that's, so the Smiths did provide a a business plan that did include some projections to that, okay? And so that was kind of the basis of our analysis on determining the ability, the capacity to repay that loan, okay? And then the capital is the fact that what they're putting in for actually equity. And so they have put cash into the deal, so there is hard money that's already brought into the deal. So it's not 100% finance. So we looked at that and found that to be acceptable as well. So that's number 4. And then the fifth and last one is collateral. And in this particular case, which is common, the bank is going to be in a first lien position, right? And then the county's loan is going to be in a second subordinate lien position. Okay, so that's very common. And an appraisal's been engaged by the bank. So we'll receive a copy prior to funding. Of course, we'll want to see that appraisal and make sure that the collateral supports that project. Now, I believe that's been delayed a little bit. They're working on that, but hasn't been completed yet. But we'll review that once that's complete to make sure that, from a collateral standpoint, that we deem that to be acceptable. Because this is a projection-based project, as underwriters, we're always looking at trying to mitigate the risk associated in an event things don't go as planned. And that's what our recommendation to the county is as well, and having some discussions and correspondence with the Smiths, they accept that recommendation, in that we are going to take a second lien position on Teresa's primary home for a period of time potentially. And what we've done in the past is we set some benchmarks or conditions for consideration to release that. And usually what we look at making for recommendation is assuming that the projections can be met, we will look at or consider releasing that second mortgage on Teresa's home once the company receives 3 consecutive years of debt service coverage ratios to a certain benchmark. Usually that's about a 1.25. So what that does, it provides the ability to say that we made this decision based off projection, but we want to see proof that that will play out. Okay, so we again will be providing a second mortgage on Ms. Smith's home for a lien of the full loan amount of $100,000 there. With the condition that we'll consider releasing that when 3 consecutive years of financial performance meet a debt service coverage ratio as acceptable. So from a collateral standpoint, we shored up the traditional, which was just taking the subject property with outside, and we're doing that additional loan on Teresa's home as an abundance of caution. Okay, so that's really what that, when underwriters look at that and make that recommendation, that's the reason that we're making that recommendation, is out of an abundance of caution. Okay? So again, just then in summarizing, and you can see up on here, we identified the strengths of it. Again, recapping, the Smiths are longtime residents of the county. Personal credit and personal financial statements appear to be reasonable and strong. There isn't anything of concern of lifestyle. We often sometimes see individuals that have very robust lifestyles, and it can cause some concerns because the guarantee, the strength in that guarantee depends upon how strong those individuals are, and we don't see any issues associated with the Smiths here. So that's certainly a strength. When combined, the Smiths do have excess personal cash flow to help support the debt in an event that things don't go as planned on the business, or they have to inject some money to support the debt and or working capital, okay? And then, of course, as I just previously mentioned, the additional collateral on Ms. Smith's home in Zimmerman as an abundance of caution. So those are really the strengths of the deal, okay? Maybe moving on the risk side of it. The projections that I did get, and we worked on several occasions trying to refine, and I made some comments as it relates to the projections. For those of you that been around me long enough, I often make the comment, I've never seen projections that didn't look good, right? And from small business owners, and you would expect that. But when you have experience and folks in our industry, we look at comparisons to what we may have already as the loans in our portfolio in the same industry. In addition to that, there's outside benchmarks with industry standards, it's often known as RMA standards. Some of you might have heard of that. But those are things that we compare the request or the operations or the projections of the request to their peer groups, okay? And in this particular case, we felt that the projections were somewhat overly optimistic. Even though that they are optimistic, I think if we do some sensitivity analysis of that and the break-even point of it, we are comfortable that there is room for some variance in those projections that they provided, okay? So that's was one of the things that we considered weaknesses. Again, we felt as though the projections were just overly optimistic. Of course, with a lot of startups, it's the unknowns of what and the unexpected things that happen throughout that process. So any startup expenses or unknown challenges is certainly a weakness, and how those may or may not be addressed. Okay, and in this particular case, to mitigate that, the Smiths do have additional cash or personal resources if needed to deploy towards that. So. The next one, number 3 on that list, is competition. That's kind of a standard with all businesses, is what, if somebody else comes into the market, what impact will that have on the business, right? And so, albeit right now, they're gonna be the only brewery in town, and really probably the only one in a sphere of probably 15 or so miles. Probably the next one is gonna be closer to what, Elk River here? Yeah, Elk River. So, but something else could, and so that's always an unknown if additional competition comes into the market. You know, the pandemic, right? Whoever thought 2 years ago we'd have, the world that we're living in and some of the challenges, and certainly when that took place, food services, bars, restaurants were severely impacted by that. Now, granted, most of them were able to have the opportunity to get relief from various funds and either grants, loans, that sort of thing. But who knows, we're not out of the woods yet. So this uncertainty about the ongoing pandemic certainly is a risk there, and what that may, how that may impact the business if they get up and going, and all of a sudden there's something unknown as it relates to that, the current one, or any future ones now that we're in this environment. So. And then the last one that I identified there was just the fact that they haven't had any prior brewery experience in managing that. So the lack of having that management experience and brewery experience is certainly a risk and a weakness. That's to be expected, but I think that's somewhat mitigated by the fact that they've teamed up and hired this head brewer that has a tremendous amount of experience running other breweries. So he'll be an important component as a team member of the company and has been a kind of an advisory for them right now on putting some of these numbers together and these forecasts. So that's kind of a summary of the strengths and weakness of the product or the company, and then so putting that all together with the fact that we are taking this additional collateral, that was an important component of our decision to make a recommendation for approval for the loan. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any.
Thanks, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin?
I do have a question or two. You're comfortable with the extra collateral that you're saying that we're going to release in about 3 years on a 25-year loan?
Well, it's not a guarantee. It's a condition that will be considered if and when the company reaches 3 consecutive years of debt service coverage ratios that are positive, and so it's not a guarantee. I mean, it could be that this stay on for the full 25 years if they don't meet that condition. But lenders will often look at that, say, if you got 3 consecutive years, we feel comfortable that what they said they were gonna do, or what they're performing to, or they're generating cash flow to support the debt, okay? So it's not an automatic that after 3 years, this is gonna be released. It's only if certain parameters and benchmarks are met. It could be that if they've never accomplished it, it never gets released. So that would be on.
Clause before, right, Kevin?
What's that?
We've used that clause.
We have used that before.
Thanks, Kevin. Any other questions for Kevin?
And there's no concerns that there's LLCs behind? I've had experience with LLCs, and my always concern is there's nothing there if they fail. There's nothing to recapture.
We have personal guarantees.
Well, yeah, so as collateral, you know, the borrowing entity is gonna be Stout Storage. And then, there's gonna be personal guarantees on, Teresa, John, and Jeff, as well as the company, okay? And the collateral is fixed assets, okay? But, and then, from a lender's perspective, when you go through a liquidation process, you know, you're always going towards the first foremost, the fixed assets, and you layer it back if there's still a need to receive proceeds to pay off the loan, all the way down to the personal guarantees.
Because we're, what, in line?
We're gonna be second on the real estate, on the Princeton property, and a second mortgage on Ms. Smith's.
Don't get me wrong, I think it sounds like a great idea.
All right, any more questions for Kevin? Did the applicants want a chance to?
Well, we've been longtime residents of Elk River. We've, grown up here. We've all gone to school here. We, love this area. We all still live here. None of us have actually moved away. So we're just super excited to be bringing this to Princeton. And we did get the property annexed in. It's
done,
finalized.
okay.
So now we are part of Princeton. So we just can't wait to bring this to, we've seen so much success from Lupulin and Ayer and other breweries around the area that we think that this is gonna be great up in that area.
I see your apparel's for sale already.
Yeah. It is, we started, so.
I assume you guys are connecting the city sewer and water with
Yes.
that
Yep.
annexation, right?
Yep, we did,
Okay.
yep.
I figured that was probably
Yeah, we had to do
driving
that. Yep.
Tough to run a brewery off a well.
Exactly.
All right, any questions for the applicants or Kevin? Anything to add, Dan?
Stephanie's online. I don't know if she wants to add anything to the city.
Oh, I didn't see her over there. Stephanie, anything you'd like to add?
We're just really excited to see them open up in Princeton. They've had a lot of good support, and yeah, it's exciting.
Thanks, Stephanie. Yeah, and I'll add, I'll put it nicely, it's a little bit of a downtrodden property, so to see that get some investment over on a prominent corner.
Well, it looks like that.
We got a photo to show you what it's gonna look like.
Yes.
It's beautiful on the outside. We
Yeah.
actually got a lighthouse that we're building on the outside. We're gonna have a ship in the front of it that's kind of sunken ship down it for photo opportunities. It's gonna be a really, really nice looking property when we're done.
Got your logo on here. I wonder if
Oh, yeah,
There
kind
it
of
is,
like that,
okay.
yeah.
I'm curious, what was your previous experience, or what do you guys?
We've just always been, big fans of breweries and going to them, and we thought that it would be great to bring something like that up there, because there's nothing around that area, so.
It's very exciting. We, when word got out of what we were doing with this project, we actually found our head brewer in the town of Princeton. He's a 14-year resident of the town of Princeton, and he's worked at 4 different breweries. He's been headmaster at 3 of those breweries, and he's a phenomenal individual. His brain is unbelievable with chemistry and how beer works. He's won many awards out there, so what he produces is absolutely phenomenal product. So we're very excited, and we hope that this, Princeton is going to become a destination for the people that are involved with this industry and that really enjoy it. That they'll be coming from different states to see what this guy produces, because he is really, really just an exceptional brewmaster. Really good stuff coming our way.
I did have a question. You annexed into Princeton, so you'll be hooking up to their water and sewer. have you had a conversation on what those costs are gonna entail? Because the brewery does put, a burden on the,
Absolutely.
and so. I
Yeah,
think-
we're in constant touch with the city and we're figuring it out and we're dealing with everybody up there to, and we're able to hit the maximum when we're through our productions at. And, the city services will be able to handle that maximum.
But there's a cost that comes to it. And I
Yes.
think there can be one that can, when you're a heavy user of water and sewer services, there is an extra cost. So I just wanted to point that out because it's new to this.
Yeah.
We've had those conversations, yep.
Because nobody wants to be surprised when they say, hey, you have to pay an extra $1 million a year to help support what you impact the services.
So we do have a resolution in the packet, and I guess we'd be looking for a motion.
Yep, if there's no other questions, I'd be open to that motion. The resolution was in the packet there, if everybody had a chance to review it.
I'll make a motion to approve the, resolution for the revolving loan fund for Sunken Ship Brewing Company. It's a great project.
All
Great
right,
use of the funds.
I'll second it.
all right, we have a motion from Mr. Drew, a second from Mr. Poole. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks.
Can't wait to try. Will you guys be sending out invitations and
Absolutely.
and a grand opening?
Yep,
Yes.
yep, we will.
Cool, can't wait
It's
to.
amazing how breweries get a lot of
we're shooting-
participation, everybody wants to
Right?
We're
attend
shooting
those
for
sort of
March,
grand
April.
openings.
Our equipment got pushed back a little bit, so we were supposed to get that in the end of December, and we just found out from Craft Kettle, which was affected by the hurricane in Louisiana, that it's been pushed back a month or two, so.
Here, I thought it was out on a ship. And you had
Yeah, no, I hope
Some
not.
stuff is.
So, yeah, we're
Working
shooting
our
for
way
March,
through that.
April.
Well, definitely looking forward to it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Great.
Wishing you lots of luck.
See you all
What's
there.
the highest alcohol content one of your beers is gonna have?
All right, perfect. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
you all
very much.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, we will move on to kind of our new item number 5, which is a conversation regarding putting together a working group to discuss county tip and abatement policy. It was Kelly Ash from Center for Rural Policy canceled, so. Yeah, got that for sure. So I can kind of start us off here. On Tuesday, the county board had a workshop where we discussed our incentive policy, more specifically tax abatement. And we're just looking at, how long ago did we adopt the current policy?
2019 was the last time we made changes to it.
About 3 years ago. So the board wanted to kind of review that policy, take a look at how it's working, how it might not be working, if there's any changes or alterations that we may want to make, or it might be fine as well. But the board asked that the EDA review it first and then push their recommendations up through here. So I had spoke with Dan, and I think just putting together a volunteer working group to have a discussion around it would be fine. I don't know that we have to do it as a full EDA. That being said, I don't know if there's anybody that's interested in sitting in that working group and giving feedback on that policy or not.
I would be honored to sit at that table.
So Ken's interested. I would, Hannah, okay, perfect. And Stephanie is on, right? Is she still online? Yeah. Stephanie, I don't know if you have any interest in being part of that conversation at all either. Just want to make sure.
I actually would be interested, but I just accepted a new position for the city of Isani, and we'll be starting at the
Sorry about
beginning.
that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Invitation rescinded. All right, so Ken, myself, Hannah, Dan will be on that. Anybody else have an interest?
Well, and there's a few that aren't here. Would that be something we'd extend to?
Yeah, we'll
like
probably
Marie,
extend
yeah.
it out. All right, if anybody has interest after the fact, feel free to shoot us out. And likely it can be in person or virtual as well.
We'll
It's,
probably do right after Thanksgiving, try to get a calendar and invite out to everybody, see when you're available.
Right, and we did have Jessica Green from Northland Securities that gave a presentation. Is that something, I know we were gonna have a speaker today. Is that a similar presentation? Otherwise, I'd like to see Jessica do one for the EDA, because it was very, I think it was very informative and insightful, so. And it would be good for the committee as well to hear ahead of. We could schedule that, that'd be
Do
awesome.
you wanna do that before the committee meets?
Well, I think it would be helpful to have all the information before a
Sure.
committee meets.
Okay. Then I'll see if she's available in December.
Unless you wanted to
No,
do
that-
it ahead of time, but otherwise I think sometimes you go in with a preconceived notion that maybe some information would enlighten the thought process.
yeah, I guess I'm open to it. I don't know that, I think we can probably do her presentation along with whatever the committee pushes forward. So our working group, if we go through it, bring that product of whatever that is together with her presentation in January, maybe that would make sense. Then we're getting them both at the same time, and we can look at what the recommendation of the group is, along with her feedback. And
Is your recommendation going to be ahead of information? I mean, not everybody, I think, totally understands.
I think based on the makeup of the working group, I
Okay.
think everybody will. I don't think I have that concern right now. So I think putting them together in January would be optimal, which leads us into the next piece of business, which is our December meeting.
Yeah, I didn't have anything on the calendar, so I was actually gonna ask if we wanna skip the December meeting and meet again in January, but we'll see if anything pops up.
It'll be that, it's that week before Christmas, and we acknowledge that that gets a little busy for everyone, and not having any applications or anything like that on the horizon, we figured
We will have a revolving loan fund application for a manufacturing plant in January as well. So January might be a extended meeting, because we have to do all our annual business too, so.
I won't be able to make the January.
It's the last Thursday in January, not the third.
I'll have to still, it'll conflict with my other one, but yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the 30th actually, is the last Thursday of the
Okay,
month.
good. 27.
It is, okay.
So that being said, and unless something major pops up, which we don't foresee it, we'll just go to the January meeting being the next meeting. Which is, again, Dan said it's the last Thursday in January, right?
It is, yeah, by our bylaws.
All right. If there's no other business, no other questions from anyone, we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Sure, sweet.